Between adventures, Fenric has been recovering. He has been giving orders to another shipmate about how to cook meals. He has been getting frustrated when the meals don't turn out very well.
Fenric,
Yes.
you do know that the ship, the crew, they survive when you are not here. No? They cook and they do not die.
But not very well. And I am here.
But you cannot get so frustrated when it does not turn out how you would cook it, because you are not cooking it, no?
I can. Watch me.
You are not going to endear yourself to the crew that way.
People have come to expect a certain quality from the food that I cook, and I would like to keep it that way, even when I'm injured.
Rest, become better, and then you can do all the cooking yourself and you do not have to yell at poor sailors.
Look, you're probably right. If I didn't do this, I would starve, because I couldn't eat the kind of food that they would prepare without my help.
Well, how are you feeling? We are meant to go see Roberto when we are ready, and I am sure there is much fancier food at his house, no?
That's true, and he does owe me for saving his life, so I can walk. I don't think I'll be scaling any buildings in the near future.
What will you do if we have to?
I will wait outside and guard the entrance.
Ah. Well, if you think you are up to it, then I shall go on down Catalina and see how she feels.
All right.
Has she checked your stitches or... No, there were no stitches. What, she burned it? Has she checked your wound, though?
She put something on it a while ago.
Fine, I shall leave you to terrorize the poor sailors, and I shall go see how she is doing.
Henrik turns to the sailor who's currently trying to cook something. Faster. Gonna have to leave soon. Hurry up. You put this in here, use that spice. No, not that one. Oh, gosh. Damn it.
Marguerite shoots the sailor a sympathetic glance and goes looking for Catalina.
Just wondering how much faster you could make scrambled eggs.
Faster, faster!
Catalina's been spending a lot of extra time at the building that...
If Marguerite can't find Catalina on the ship and she thinks she'd be there, then she's gonna go round up Fenric and Alana and bring them along, because it doesn't make any sense to go talk to Catalina there, then come back to the ship, then go to Roberto. So she's dragging everyone along with her. Marguerite, Alana, and Fenric will walk up to the building looking for Catalina.
And you can hear the sounds of knocking from within the building. And the outside looks like there's some extra pieces of wood, and some of the windows have been repaired, and inside is Catalina, and she's dressed in almost like a pair of workman's overalls, and she's got her hair tied back with a very dirty cloth, and she looks up, hammering a nail into one of the floorboards, and she wipes her brow with her forehand and looks up at Marguerite. Hola, Marguerite.
Hello, we have come to ask how you are feeling.
I am feeling okay.
Très bien, you are fine, I am fine, Fenric is fine, no one is falling to pieces. Very good. As we have been summoned by your friend Roberto. How is the floor coming along, by the way?
It is slow, but it is coming along.
Do we need any more supplies?
See.
What do we need? I will make a list.
And she thinks, and she looks around. She looks up at the ceiling at some patches of mold and some water dripping down in one corner and some missing floorboards. She's looking down and looking around. There is still so much to do. I guess for now we need some more planks of wood and some nails.
We shall organize that.
What is it you need it again?
We are requested to go and speak to your friend Roberto.
Oh, okay. Um, Big man, how is your wound?
It's healing steadily. I
You're dressing
think
it every
I'm.
day, see?
Yes, I'm making sure to take care of it.
It had better heal quickly. He has become a terror to the crew.
Perhaps Senor Roberto has found more information.
I would hope so. I hope it is not more people trying to kill him, as it seems we have had quite a few of them. No?
See?
But what do I care about it? I apparently have not long to live myself, so I shall not worry.
Why do you have not long to live?
Oh, I told you, no? Did I not? The woman, she says, enjoy the short time you have left. She was very rude.
This is a very strange occurrence.
I have rather lost count of the many strange occurrences we have dealt with, so... oui, I suppose it is strange. However, strange is becoming rather expected. So I suppose we shall go see what Roberto has to say.
And Catalina lays the hammer down on the floor and shall we go?
Oui. And we go.
And you find him in the ballroom, and he comes over excitedly. My good dear friend, the love of my life, and he gives Fenric a big hard hug, and then he gives Marguerite
shoulder.
a big hug. The love of my life, and
For sure.
then spins around and hugs Catalina. The love of my life. And then he snaps his fingers. There is a situation, a rather sordid one that I would normally not involve myself with.
What has happened?
Some time ago, there was a relationship. Not, I must admit, somewhat to my disappointment, with me. However, it was a compromising relationship, and there was some rather indiscreet letters written. Now, one of those individuals is in a position to affect the upcoming trade policy with the Crescent Empire, and someone is cashing in on those letters. We must get them back. I am not worried about the buyer nor the seller. They are immaterial and absolutely useless without the letters. If we can get the letters, we nullify the situation. However, the sum being asked is not inconsequential, as this will possibly change a vote on the trade agreement. They will not give these letters up because they are being unethical in their actions, nor will they give them up to see the good of the state. They will not want to give them up. And those that are buying them will not want to not have access to them either, as both sides are after either profit or a leverage. These people that have affairs, they need to do so quietly.
So I take it the idea is to steal them and not to offer a higher sum?
Correct. Or, as far as I'm concerned, destroy them.
Oui.
If you bring them back to me, and he walks over and makes a slightly grandiose gesture to his fireplace, woof! Either way, having them removed permanently from the equation will be better than having them in safekeeping. Non-existence is the best safekeeping that they can be in.
And they are the only copy?
I believe so.
I see.
And where are these letters, Roberto?
And he walks up and flicks his wrist like a card shark, and a card appears in his hand, and he holds it out towards you. Some of my agents were able to learn the address of the meeting.
And the individuals in question?
Will be unpleasant, I'm sure, but professional.
So, is there anything else we need to know?
Protect yourselves, be careful. Get caught up in trying to eradicate either side. They're not important.
Have you found out any more about the person who was trying to kill you?
I have not at this time. I'm assuming it's people that were involved deeply in the letters that you recovered from the cane. It appears that there was an organization that was trying to pull the strings of the war for their benefit. They are not enjoying being exposed now.
We did run into someone I have met before attempting to recover the letters, and I do not know if she was involved with the other woman I spoke to. I suppose it is possible.
In time, I'm sure we will learn the truth. But they are not interested in making our life easy.
No, quite the opposite. Very well, I suppose we shall go see about destroying some letters.
I would suggest doing it before both parties are there, so you only have to deal with one rather than both.
Well, that would be the seller that we wish to find, not the buyer. They will not have it.
That is my feeling. But the buyer is interested, so if they arrive, they would be unpredictable on what they would do. Either way, your situation would become more perilous.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Well, shall we go prepare?
I think that's a good idea.
I will have to go back to the ship and get my swords.
We can go prepare, and then we can go find some letters. We will return when we have finished this mission.
Very good. I look forward to your successful completion. Hopefully without injury.
That would be nice. I hope no one gets shot this time. Last time we all got shot. That was not ideal.
Roberto, when it's over, says, "Alana, come with me." And he turns and goes down a very long hall.
He said he was making a trophy room.
A large room. It's about the size of a basketball court for scale. And it says the Hall of Alana above the door that leads in. And it is completely empty.
Except the hat.
There's a very lavish gold frame with the hat attached to the wall. And she's just standing in awe looking at the size of the room with this one thing. And he makes a motion to the room and he's like, "I have great faith that there will be many more to come." And she just starts to giggle with both embarrassment but also like pride.
You shall have to shoot a lot of hats to fill up this room.
And she makes twin pistols with her fingers and pew-pews.
Well, shall we head back to the ship?
See.
Back on the ship. Alright, well, Marguerite will grab her rapier and go try and find everyone else once she's ready.
And Fenric will join you, gather his pistol.
Catalina, are you sure you are feeling alright?
I'm okay. I have just had headaches for the past couple of weeks. They do become quite bothersome, but
Well, I would say you should see a doctor, but since you are one, I do not know.
shall we go?
Where exactly are we headed to?
It appears the location of the meet is going to happen outside the city.
I suppose that makes sense.
We will go in the carriage.
I think that would be best for all of you who are wounded. So we will take a carriage.
And you can see it is what possibly was a large schoolhouse or woodsman's cabin, but it seems large for a woodsman's cabin, so you're not sure what it might have been. It's possible it was a building that was used by the local government at some point, possibly for use on the highways, of which the old highway is near. And from the woods, you can see that there is 2 main entrances, and there are 4 ruffians, 2 on each side, and a couple of lanterns on the inside you can see the lights from. So there's at least someone inside.
Well, at least the cellar is already here.
Is that good news?
I suppose it depends. If it is just the seller, that is what we would hope for. If the buyer is also here, that gives us 2 groups to deal with.
It also means we don't have any time to scout the place out before they arrive.
I suppose not. I think we wish to do this as quickly as we can to avoid anyone else arriving before we have done what we need to.
See,
So what would you say is our best way forward?
Well, it looks like from here there's 2 guards in front of the door.
Oui.
We could try and take them out quickly and quietly and go in. There also might be a back way. Could have a look.
We could. There are probably people inside as well.
Yes, but once we get inside, we can handle them if we get the jump on them.
Well, do you think it would be better to deal with the guards on both sides so that there are none left out here that could come and be a problem later, or simply to focus on one entrance and not worry about the other for the moment?
I would suggest one entrance only because we have to go quickly. Ideally, we can take out the guards, make our way through, find the papers, and then get out before the other 2 even have to enter.
However, there are people inside. The minute we step in and they yell for the other guards, they will come running.
Maybe, unless they don't see us enter. I guess we'd have to be pretty lucky. Although it would be weird for there to be people guarding the door that has guards on it on the inside.
There do not need to be guards on the inside. There merely need to be people that have eyes, and they see us, and they yell.
Right.
Catalina?
Catalina's looking at the guards and she shakes her head. She pinches the bridge of her nose again. It will be safer if we do incapacitate them all.
Oui, Fenric thinks it will not be as quick, however. There are 4 of us. We could go 2 and 2.
See,
Could work unless one of us gets in trouble.
and then we will have both exits covered.
Alright, well, we can try it.
So, who goes where?
You can take the back door with Alana.
Oh, Boomba.
That is a yes. Very well then. Catalina, shall we head to the front door?
Nods.
Excellent. Fenric, you do know if anything happens to Alana, both Catalina and I will kill you, we?
I think you need to be more worried about me. I think Alana can handle herself. I wanted to go with her because she's the best fighter.
Ah. Marguerite looks to see what Catalina thinks of this statement.
Catalina ignores it and starts heading off towards the front door.
All right, Marguerite will follow. So Marguerite took what Fenric said about being as quick as possible to heart, but seeing as how she is paired up with Catalina, she does not want to go loudly crashing about and get some disapproving glares. So she focused on sort of sneaking her way up to the side of the building and then coming along that way, being as quick as she possibly could while staying quiet. She does not know where Catalina is. She assumes she's following now. So, seeing as how she is only focusing on taking out one of the guards, she is not assuming she needs to worry about both. She only sneaks so much as up until the point she gets to where the guards are, and then she no longer worries about stealth, as she assumes she will deal with one and Catalina will deal with the other. So she grabs one of the guards by the shoulders and knocks him back against the wall of the building. and he slumps down against it, unconscious.
Catalina appears from the darkness behind the other guard at the door, who turns and notices you, and she is right behind him, and she whacks him over the back of the head, and he goes, ow, and reaches his hand up, scruffing the back as he turns and sees a little 5-foot red-haired monster in front of him.
I do not think that was according to plan.
Oh dear.
Oui.
The other side of the building, because what happens on the other side is Alana gets to the edge of the building and stealthily, but somewhat ridiculously, sort of crabs along the edge of the building. She gets to the end. She peers around. She's looking for Fenric at the other end. Probably can see him looking around. She goes back, takes a deep breath, slips around into the shadow, crabs along quite quietly along the side of the building, pounces on the guy, pulls him into the shadows, takes his pipe, and then she hops out and puts the pipe in her mouth and stands there. The second guard is sort of looking around, looks over at her, looks away, sort of stops and looks over at her, and he's starting to think, I'm sure Hector was not a girl, was
And
taller and wearing different clothes. While he's getting rather confused about this person that's standing where Hector is with his pipe doing exactly what Hector was, Fenric is not as quietly as he was hoping approaching.
So Fenric kind of lumbers towards the guard, who spins back around and sees him. And Fenric has his pistol in his hand, in his left hand, his right hand raised like he's about to punch the guard. The guard spots him and starts to draw his weapon. Fenric panics.
So Marguerite and Catalina, already slightly panicking over on the other side, now hear a gunshot.
You hear a gunshot, and you also hear a scream of very angry Vodacci.
At least it sounds as though I do not have to kill Fenric yet. Marguerite would probably find this amusing were we not staring at a guard who's not unconscious.
So, unfortunately, for the last...
Everyone?
Now the guy gets to go.
Okay,
He
cool.
grabs Catalina and headbutts her.
Okay, well, before Catalina gets into doing whatever she's doing, how Marguerite was helping was she's grabbed onto the coat of the guard and is basically trying to yank him back away from Catalina.
You see 3 similar individuals to the one that is outside. There is one coming behind him who is better dressed and looks a little bit more competent. And behind them is a large individual with big muscles, a long sword, and his sleeves are torn off, and he has lots of tattoos. On the opposite side with Fenric, you have 2 similar guys to what you have dealt with, and one that looks better dressed and better armed. That guy's there. Yeah, that's not going to make sense to have them all arrive and then, but they're definitely rushing out. But you're
Okay.
going to have your first action before that they arrive.
Okay, cool.
So Catalina staggers back after getting headbutted by this guy. Marguerite pulling on the guy's cloak and using the hilt of the dagger, she knocks him in the side of the head. The big guy falls backwards.
Okay, as Marguerite steps out of the way of the brute that Catalina has knocked out, she sees that 5 more individuals are exiting the building. Have they come out in any particular order? Or
Brutes first, rival, then boss.
she's going to decide that quietness absolutely no longer matters, but it's still quite important to deal with people as quickly as possible before we get overwhelmed. So as the 5 individuals step out of the building, Marguerite draws her rapier and shifts into sort of a fencing stance. And the brute that is closest to her looks like he is going to accept this challenge and draws his own weapon and starts towards her. But instead of actually attacking with her weapon, she's going to leap backwards, and he will stumble over the brute who had already been knocked out and fall to the ground.
Alana engages the rival, who also has a rapier. He charges forward, trying to use his strength to overwhelm her, and she gives ground against the assault, parrying and ducking and weaving, and when she lets him overextend a little, she steps quickly forward, stabbing him in the shoulder before hopping back out of the way, and she has done damage to him.
Yeah, so Fenric was able to calm Alana down without her continuing to attack him instead of the enemy. I don't think, because I have to reload my gun. Would that change my approach too? Probably. Yeah, so I'll use my 2 raises to reload my gun.
Catalina squares off on them, and one rushes forward, and she parries his sword with her dagger. And as she uses the sword and brings the sword up and stabs him through the side of the stomach, and he goes down, clutching his abdomen. She spins around in time to throw the dagger she had in her right hand at the third guard, and it lands square in his sword arm, up in his shoulder, and he drops his sword.
Marguerite, seeing that the hired guard-looking people have all been dealt with and only the 2 more intimidating individuals remain, is going to decide that she really doesn't like the look of that chain one of them is holding, and that he should probably be stopped sooner rather than later. So she's going to lunge forwards to stab the bigger tattooed man in the arm holding the chain, hoping she can get him to drop it. I know that's not how this works. That's just her thinking.
So on the other side, they are still trading lunges and parries and swipe, and the sound of their sword fight is ringing out. Alana flicks her hand, and this powder hits the man in the face, and he starts to cough. On the other side of the building, you can hear him screaming, "My eyes! My eyes!" And then he sort of stops, as if he expected something different, and he starts to sniff, and he says, "Nutmeg." And then Alana hops forward, and with a big right hook, smashes him in the face, and he spins around and staggers a couple of feet, really confused, and he glassy-eyed looks at Fenric, and you can't quite tell if he's confused about what just happened or that he got nutmeg thrown in his face before he crumples to the ground and lays quietly.
Yep, he's out of races, so yeah. He does nothing. He stands there.
Oh. And so's Alana. She's also out of razors.
She steps to one side as the rival looks into her eyes, and he calls out, "On guard!" He lunges at her, and she deftly parries it. She's just sort of almost standing there in place. She steps to the right as he lunges at her, and she parries his rapier out of the way. He lunges again, and she parries again, except this time the opposite direction. The sword slides in through the armpit of his sword arm.
Fenric, the 2 brutes turn on you, and they start thumping you.
Okay.
The boss flicks out his chain hand, wrapping around Marguerite. He yanks her forward, the chain unraveling and making her spin, thrusts his arm forward, punching her in the stomach, lifting her off the ground, where she then falls prone for 7 points of damage.
Exactly what she was worried about with that chain.
Looked at her as if you've left yourself open, girl, and brought his rapier down and stabbed her through the top of the shoulder. And she lets out a yelp of pain. She pulls back and spins, bringing the sword sideways, collecting the side of his knee. She lifts up and throws the sword at him, and him, thinking it was aimed specifically at him, sort of ducks to one side, but the sword travels past him and hits the big guy in the side, momentarily distracting him as the flat of the blade lands against him. And
Marguerite lands flat on her back on the ground and has the wind knocked out of her, and for a moment is entirely confused as to how she got there, and then is confused as to why the large tattooed man hasn't immediately continued attacking since she's been lying on the ground for a moment. She did not see Catalina throw a sword and distract him, but she is nonetheless grateful for the brief reprieve in attack. She will take a second, so I'm going to spend one raise to say she's able to get up and is no longer prone. She will take a breath, manage to get herself back up, and from a kneeling position, as she stands back up to her feet, she's going to, with her rapier, sort of launch herself up into his chest from the ground, which he was not expecting, as he is looking to see where the sword that hit his arm came from. So she will just stab right into his chest for 4 points.
Run through individual, darts forward quickly and slices high as a feint, and then actually does his attack against Catalina's legs. The blade cuts across both of her legs just above her knees. The boss knocks your hand, pulling the blade out of his chest. He flicks his wrist again, wrapping the chain around Marguerite's waist, and pulls her forward as he lands a headbutt down onto her shoulder, making her stagger back several feet.
The villain does, however, gain 2 extra dice. Now.
Okay.
So Fenric is going to fire at the brute that is still in front of him. And it hits him in the neck, and he falls over. Then Fenric is going to look down, quickly reload, take a couple steps back.
Fenric takes 1 point of damage from the other brute, who steps forward and punches him in the face. Alana looks up briefly when you fired, but then sort of goes, all right, cool, and goes back to her rummaging of the unconscious individual.
Marguerite, who was knocked several steps back, is a little more unsteady on her feet this time as she rushes back forward. She is really trying her best to stay out of the way of this chain. However, a rapier is not a long-distance weapon, so her options are limited. She's going to, instead of stabbing him, slash across his arm near his hand, hoping she can get him to drop this chain, which is concerning yet ridiculous weapon. And for 7 raises, she will slice his arm. She was very focused on trying to make him let go of the chain. However, what she has managed to do is cause him to recoil in pain as his arm is sliced, flailing the chain around wildly. He's not aiming it, so it doesn't hit Marguerite or Catalina. What it ends up doing is whipping around in the air and wrapping around his own neck. And he falls to the ground and appears to be having difficulty breathing and loses consciousness.
Catalina, having disarmed herself to provide Marguerite an opportunity, backs away from the guy in front of her who's slashed her across the legs. Not an overly bad wound, but she backs away. He lunges forward and she darts off to one side, smacking his sword hand out of the way. And I'm going to spend my 3 raises reducing the damage.
And he does a lunge, but he only just clips Catalina for 2 points of damage.
He kind of reels back and is kind of windmilling his arms to keep his balance. And he pulls the trigger as he is doing it. And by sheer luck, the bullet hits right in the center mass of the brute, blowing him back onto the ground. And Fenric also goes back onto the ground as the recoil is enough to knock him off balance fully.
So the glancing wound brings him in a bit closer, but to his surprise, he thought he had opened himself up. She steps back. He readies himself, and she's unarmed, and she's looking at him. She's bleeding from her legs and a shoulder and her upper shoulder, and he thinks he's got her beat as she looks almost worn down to nothing, and she starts swaying on her feet a bit, and she puts her hand to her head, and he thinks this is an opening. He lunges forward, and then she ducks and leaps up into him with full force from her legs, driving him backwards as she shoulders him in the middle of the chest. And her right shoulder lands solidly into the middle of his chest, knocking the wind out of him, driving him backwards towards Marguerite. Yep, and she turns around. So Catalina knocks the guy and drives him into, as Marguerite turns, she has a sword at her waist, and he's sort of falling down, and the sword, the tip of Marguerite's sword drives in through the middle of his back.
Marguerite was not expecting this, so she falls over because she was not prepared to brace the weight of somebody coming onto her sword. Marguerite's lying on the ground, wondering if her ribs are broken.
And Alana walks around the side of the building, and she's like dusting off her sleeves, and she's like, "Can't believe he fired when I was standing like right there." And she like looks over.
Fenric is preparing to breach the building. He doesn't quite realize that combat is over, so he swings open the door. He's got his gun pointed.
And you can see the other door is open and people laying on the ground, possibly Marguerite.
Yep, she's laying on the ground.
Then he will go through the building and run over to them.
She will lie there for a moment and then sit up and look around to see that apparently there's no one left to fight, which is a relief.
Catalina is lying on her back, looking up into the sky.
Catalina?
I fear this is getting a little bit too much.
How do you know if your ribs are broken?
You will find it difficult to breathe.
Well, I suppose we had best go retrieve the letters, no?
See, you go. I will lie here for a while.
I would prefer to stay seated myself. Perhaps someone else can go.
Send the big golf in.
Yeah,
Fenric.
I'll have a look. I see it didn't go so well for you either.
One could say that. On the other end, one could say it went very well. We are alive, no?
True. Have we learned anything about splitting up?
That's when you say you wish to go with Alana, I should say do not do that. as I did, but I was overruled.
I think it worked out fine. I probably would have died without her help.
I think what we have learned is when we are trying to sneak around, do not fire a gun and set everyone running out at us at once, perhaps?
How do you know it was my gun?
Because I could hear Alana shouting that you were an idiot for firing?
Well, things happen in the heat of the battle, and there's just nothing you can do sometimes.
Please, can you go see if there are letters so that we can go back to the ship and I can lie down?
I'm on it. And he will head into the inner room in the building.
And it's a large room with a fire and a big table, and there is a stack about 4 inches tall, wrapped in a gold ribbon. Very fine hand has written on the outside of the letter that you can see.
Okay. Fenric's going to take the top one and open it and see if he can read who it's to or from. Then he will put the letter back and grab the rest of them and carry it out of the building. Are you ready to go, or are you gonna lay there for the rest of the day?
It is tempting to lay here all night, but did you find the letters?
I got a stack of them here. I think this is all of them.
But are they truly the letters or are they something else?
I can't read them.
Give them here.
He will place the pile down next to her.
And Marguerite's just gonna skim through them to see if they seem to be scandalous love letters between important politicians. This is them. Throw them in the fire.
In the meantime, and Catalina will slowly get to her feet, walk over to the guy that she just pushed, unbuckle his belt, grab the scabbard and rapier, sheath it, retrieve her dagger, buckle it to her, and going back to the ship.
Perhaps the carriage first? No?
And she pinches the bridge of her nose again.
Burn them and then we can leave.
Where do you suggest I burn them?
There was a flickering light from the windows. There is a fire in there, no?
Was there no candle inside?
I guess I could burn them one at a time at the candle, but... Yeah, so he will go back in with the stack of letters and burn them in the fireplace.
When Fenric tosses them in, they do actually burst into flame and are burning. They're not like protected or anything. They do start to burn. He can see that because they're stacked, it's going to take them a little bit to burn, but they are definitely burning and they will burn into ash and be useless. And you return safely to the city.
We need to go let Roberto know.
Perhaps send the big man. I'm going to sew myself up.
And how are you two? Alana, Fenric?
I got punched in the face a few times.
Alana?
He got punched in the face a few times.
But you are fine?
I am fine. That idiot. Only because he didn't hit me. I cannot believe it. I'm standing there, completely, perfectly disguised as the guard's compatriot. Next thing I know, the idiota turns around and fires his pistol at 15 paces. I'm standing directly next to the guy.
Oui. Very, very idiotic. I am glad you are all right.
I don't know if the takeaway message from this is you do not give chefs a rifle or weapon, or if you should not give men a pistol.
Fenric? Would you rather that Alana take your pistol away because you are a cook, or because you are a man?
I don't think she should take my pistol away. That feels like a trick question.
He refuses to say which is better. He says he would like to keep his pistol.
Swaps the patch as if somehow that's a thing of indignation.
At him. I move my eye patch at you. Well, Fenric, do you wish to go let Roberto know?
I guess so. If no one else is gonna do it, I will.
Alana, do you wish to go to the ship or to Roberto's?
And she makes a thought as if she's really considering it. I'm going to go to Roberto's. I have a trophy.
Ah, what do you have this time?
And she holds up a neck scarf And when she pulls it out, you can smell nutmeg.
Of course.
Very well. I think the two of us are going to limp back to the ship. We shall see you later. All right, let us go. All right, I guess we'll head back to the ship.
Seventh Sea, starring Emily as Marguerite, Shadow as Fenric, Raven Insane as Catalina, Ghost as the teller of stories. Seventh Sea is released by Chaosium Games and written by John Wick. Some of the sound comes from Sirenscape.com. You can find us at critfail.com.
I want to kiss you. Kiss you here and kiss you there, kiss you everywhere.
That's exactly what the letters say, verbatim. How did you know?
The compromising parties are a pair of Muppets.
Who have a lot of influence over this trade policy with the Crescent Empire.
I'm assuming there's windows on the outside.
Some. Not very clean. Seeing in is difficult.
But climbable.
The windows?
Huh? I don't need to pay a primary school girl to do my homework now.
Oh, no, you have a master's.